Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of the Third and Short Overtime podcast. Yeah, we're late again. We're unprofessional. We all know that, but we're here. That's the main thing. On this week, let me just introduce the crew first. Obviously, we've got Mark, JP, and Bones all here. And I think, obviously, we do some fun episodes, in my opinion. I think you lot might not, but in my opinion, we do some fun episodes. But we're only a few hours away from the new season, I think we all thought it was only right to do some predictions and just talk through what we agree with and disagree with. I know the original crew on Monday were back with theirs. It's good to see Mark and see Matt and Jamie back. They've done a good job, them two. So I didn't miss anyone, did I, lads? I don't think I did I? Just them two. So yeah, so if you hadn't seen their episode, go over to the YouTube channel and listen to it, or Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It were a good one. So we're going to do ours now, and it's just the normal ones, and we might have a few fun ones that these lot aren't expecting later that I might throw at them. So let's get on with it then, lads. Let's start. We've got to get Bones to pull them up the way we actually got them as a nice little header here, which we were very prepared for. Well, I think we've got Super Bowl winner first, but we'll start with the AFC and NFC champions. And seeing as though JP's up left first, because he's got someone different to us all as the AFC winner. So I'll let you go with yours first, JP.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I picked the Ravens for the AFC, but also we did Super Bowl winner. I picked the Bucks. How do you not? They brought everybody back that just won the Super Bowl. They've got the quarterback that's proven to win in key situations. I don't know. I don't want to do it because I hate Tampa Bay, but I think it's really, really hard to look past them, unfortunately. They're bringing back 22 starters. They don't seem to have got any worse. And I don't think they're the sort of team that has a scheme that's easy to pick up on if you're if you're working against them. So yeah, I'm liking the Bucks. I'm not liking the Bucks, but I like the Bucks to win the Super Bowl. So there you go.
I find it hard to disagree with the Bucks in the NFC. John, I actually think they might even be better this year than last year, which is, they won it all last year, but Brady's second year in the system. The confidence of going in. You've got those rookies who played really well last year. Winfield Jr., second-year player now. Tristan Wirfs, second-year player as well. I mean, we all know how hard it is to run it back as a Super Bowl, and I haven't went as far as picking them as Super Bowl champions. But I do think we'll see them, like in the Super Bowl again. If anything, they look better. They look better than last year, which is daunting for the rest of the NFC, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm same as you with the Bucks. It's obviously we all listen to different podcasts and stuff. Like the professionals, I could guess. But they were saying that stuff like Tom Brady going in and getting, I know it sounds silly, but Gio Bernard, that third down back, to add to what they've already got there, and even the rookie picks that they've got in the draft look like they're going to do a job for them. So they've always said that even all the way last season, but they started a slow start last year, don't forget. And they always said that the second year is like Mark said, second year is where we're going to see Brady, when he's got a proper training camp and stuff, getting really close up with the players. And he didn't even need that last year, did he? Look at it, he just went straight in and won it all. So they could get even better this year, and especially in a weak NFC side as well compared to the AFC. I just don't think there's going to. I can't remember what the Bucs schedule is. Obviously, what they've got in their division, and I don't see any problems with that. But I just don't see much there that's going to stop them. I think it's like a nice easy run to the playoffs, and then they might even get to a bye in a few games there. Maybe Green Bay if they come up against them when it comes to the championship game.
That's going to be interesting. Who's going to be the championship match? I mean, I'm looking at our predictions. And I know we've started with John and the Super Bowl winning the Bucks, but it's hard not to talk about how three of us have got the Bucks going to the Super Bowl, and Bones being the odd one out. So I'm intrigued to see why Bones thinks that the Rams can leapfrog the Bucks this year. Because when I was looking at who I would pick outside of the Bucks to be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl, I was thinking Green Bay. I nearly went with the 49ers, John, your team. I think that when Kyle Shanahan decides to make the switch to Trey Lance, I think it's going to be really difficult for the NFL to stop that. And I kind of believe that he might go with this 2-quarterback system, which if he is going to go for that over the first few weeks to bed Trey Lance in, that's going to be just such a mindfuck for defensive coordinators around the NFL. It's going to be really difficult because it's not like he's going series for series. This is Trey Lance's series. This is Jimmy Garoppolo's series. No, what he was doing, he was almost switching them play to play a situation, and yeah, defensive coordinators in the NFC can't be like in that. And do you know what happens when new offenses come in? We saw this years ago when the Dolphins were running that Wildcat. It takes a while for teams to cotton on. And I can just see the 49ers going on the streak where nobody can figure them out. So they were the ones who I was thinking who were closest to maybe overtaking the Bucs. But I'm going to put Bones in here because I'm dying to hear why he thinks of it. Because I think the Rams have got worse. I know they've added Stafford, but I think they've got worse with the players they've lost. So be interested to see what Bones has got to say about these Rams.
I mean, it might be a little bit of Stafford bias, but actually, there is two parts to it. The Rams made it to the playoffs last year with Jared Goff, and I think at quarterback at least they've only gotten better. Like a proven 5,000-yard passer, one of the most prolific passers in the league. He's hit multiple records for the fastest person to reach passing yardage. I think he'll be great in Sean McVay's system, and not to mention, their schedule's pretty good for them. Yeah, I had a look through it today just to see what the win-loss prediction would be for the Rams. And as far as at least making it to the playoffs again, I think they're a shoo-in for a playoff berth. And I'd like to see them knock the Bucs off, to be honest. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to say it because I don't want the Rams to be anywhere near it, to be honest. I absolutely despise them. JP, like Matt said, the 49ers, I'm in agreement. I think if they can stay fit, I think they're even a bigger challenger than Green Bay, personally, myself, if they all can stay on the field. What do you think?
So here's the reason I didn't pick them. I think we'll come to some of my other predictions. It's pretty obvious that I am a little bit biased, that I will generally put some of the Niners guys before everybody else. But I didn't pick us for the NFC for the simple reason that, and it's kind of what you guys have all said, yeah, we're talking about potential 2 QB system and will certain players come back at the same level and all that. But we're asking so many questions, and I don't think it's certain enough to know and to be able to say, yeah, definitely. I think we'll be a contender. In my head, we might play the title game against the Bucs, and I think that would be a great game. I think we could be a contender. I think the Rams are a good shout as well, but I couldn't pick the Niners, unfortunately, because I just don't know what they're going to look like. I'm excited to watch it, but I'm not confident enough. I don't look at it and go, yeah, this is definitely going to be, the winner of the NFC. I'm not even 100% sure it's a playoff team, really, but we'll know a few weeks into the season, I think.
You know me, I like to pick a dark horse. So far, we've got nothing out to surprise, even Bones with the Rams. I mean, the Rams have been the playoff team perennially, and they're a good team. So we can't really see that's a surprise that Bones has got the Rams to pick the NFC. But I like to throw a little curveball in there. I like to throw something out there that people can get talking about. I mean, it's not quite Von Miller for defensive player of the year curveball, you know what I mean? which is a little dig at Tom. But I want to throw a little curveball in there, and I'm going to make an argument for the Dallas Cowboys now. And now you're all sitting there going, what the hell, the Dallas Cowboys? But look, Dak's back, and this offense is stacked. This Dallas offense is stacked. You've got Gallup, you've got Cooper, who's unplayable on his day. You've got Lamb, who was fantastic last year. Zeke Elliott looks slimmed down. That offensive line's coming back. The offensive side of the ball, this could be a legitimate top 2 or 3 offense in the NFL. And the thing is it needs to be, because the defense was terrible, and it probably is still terrible. But when you've got the offensive firepower that the Cowboys have, you can go on a hot run. You know what I mean? And I think there could be one of those teams who win the NFC East because it's garbage, you know, and they could go into that playoffs and they could go on a little hot run, you know what I mean, of just, you know, throwing the ball, you know. Dak Prescott, before he got injured, had 3 consecutive 400-yard games. You know what I mean? This is a high-powered offense. And they say that defenses win championships is what they say. But, you know, if I was going to put a dark horse in there, you know, it wouldn't shock me if that Dallas offense got hot at the right time in the playoffs and blew past a few teams that wasn't meant to and finds themselves, you know, in that NFC championship game or even in the Super Bowl. It's a long shot, but, you know, well, I like to pick a dark horse, you know.
I think, speaking of like dark horses, JP don't know this is coming. I'm going to throw it to JP. But what about the Saints? You know, Saints have got a good defense, you know. Jameis Winston, just say he clicks. What is to say that they can't go far?
Well, I mean, you said the 2 words that are the obvious ones, Jameis Winston. But, I mean, I have said before on this podcast that as much as I dislike Jameis Winston, if he's going to succeed anywhere, it's going to be with Sean Payton. So I'm not ruling it out. I can't see it, but it's not impossible. I would be very surprised. But you never ever know. Like any team being coached by Sean Payton has got a shot at doing something when it matters. You know, for me, he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. So you can't rule him out based on that. And much the same way you could never really rule out the Patriots, even though Brady's no longer there and things like that. So yeah, dark horse maybe. It's the divisional games that would matter for them. If they can get past the Bucs twice, then yeah, game on, I guess.
Moving over to the AFC now, we'll come back to you soon, JP, because you're the only one that's gone a bit different here, and we've all quite vanilla. We know what we've picked. We've all picked the Chiefs. Bones, obviously, they got to the Super Bowl last year. We saw the problem that we had with the offensive line. Have they fixed that? And is everything in place for them? Can you see anything past them getting to the AFC Championship and to the Super Bowl?
The AFC is an interesting one, isn't it? Because it is a very competitive division. There's no denying it. I think the issues they had at offensive line, they have addressed. Like we spoke about it when we did the Chiefs, didn't we? We spoke about they have addressed the offensive line, and we expect it to be better and not as susceptible to those kind of pressures. The problem with the Chiefs last year was it was depth on the offensive line as much as it was the key pieces. It was when people went down. So you never know. In the game of football, people can go down, but I think the Chiefs are a fairly strong contender for winning the division. I think the only other team I thought about making a case for was the Browns. Like, I think the Browns, as Mark was saying before, if you wanted to throw in someone who could easily get to the playoffs and make a run, I think the Browns are another contender. But yeah, the Chiefs are pretty firm favourites, I think.
Yeah. You know, I find it hard to disagree. There's 2 questions that I want to know about the Chiefs, but I'm like you, Bones. I think that they're head and shoulders the most, you know, exciting team to watch in the NFL. It sticks in my throat to say that. I've actually got a New York Giants sweatshirt on today. I've already got some jip off me mates through text already for wearing this. But yeah, I collect NFL jerseys in general. But one rule is I'll not buy a Chiefs one or have a divisional rival. So that's just a disclaimer. I haven't jumped ship or anything. I've just been at the gym and I was wearing this for that. But yeah, right. Yeah, back to the AFC and back to the Chiefs. You know, there's 2 questions that I want to know about the Chiefs. One is, who's their number 2 wide receiver? Because it ain't going to be Mecole Hardman. And at the minute, they've got Byron Pringle lined up outside there. There's enough question marks there about who's going to be in that Sammy Watkins role. You know what I mean? The second question that I want to know is they've got 3 new pieces on the offensive line now. We can all see whether they looked good in college. Creed Humphrey looked pro ready. You know what I mean? And you know, like, and Niang hasn't played a game. You know, there's still question marks there. Kyle Long's injured. Yeah, they've bought pieces on it, but how long will it take those pieces to gel? You know, knowing the Chiefs, they'll probably not skip a beat and they'll be absolutely fantastic. But and I think that's what they're merging offensive line units. But there is some question marks there. You know, we've talked about it in the past before, how, you know, the AFC West really does have teams with good pass rushers. And I can actually include the Raiders in that for the first time in a while. You know, Max Crosby and Yannick. And yeah, if I was a defensive coordinator playing the Chiefs, I would be looking at what Tampa did and thinking, well, let's us try to do the same. Because there is a few question marks there. John, I don't know how you feel about Mecole Hardman. Personally, I think he's a one-trick pony deep threat. He's never going to be a clean route runner. And, you know, like when you've got him and Hill on the field at the same time, you're limited with what you can do. And that's the truth. Because they're both very similar to each other. Obviously, Hill's a much better player, but they both do a similar kind of role. So Pringle doesn't really fill us full of love. I'm thinking who's going to be that number 2 wide receiver. I remember you said in one of our earlier pods that you think they'll miss Watkins as well, which is why I'm going to ask you directly about this, because you haven't got the Chiefs in there. And I'm guessing this might be the reason why.
Yeah, I think you covered some of them as well. The O-line is the one we've said. I think we've all said on pods now. Andy Reid's system is not the easiest to pick up as an O-lineman, being as it is a zone blocking scheme. It doesn't come naturally. It's not. If you think about the standard lineman, they want to line up across from somebody and hit them. The zone blocking scheme, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, doesn't really work like that. And it's getting that synergy down between between your starting 5, if you like. And I think it's going to be a few weeks before that kicks in. And to be honest, some of the guys, Joe Thuney hasn't played in that scheme. So I do wonder, they've obviously seen something they like, and I think there was a trend to go towards bigger linemen in that scheme anyway. But I'm a bit unsure about that. But you're absolutely right on the receiver stuff. You're absolutely right. Losing Sammy Watkins, I think that's a bigger deal than people think. I was surprised they let him go, really. They haven't got a lot of proven talent in that receiver room. Mecole Hardman is your classic slot receiver for me. He's not a number 2 wide receiver. He's not a possession guy or a burner, really. He is a slot player. You know, that's fine. The slot player is in vogue in the NFL now. You do need one of them, but they need a solid option opposite. I know they've got Travis Kelce, and the argument is, well, even the number 2 wide receiver is a third option at best. But I don't know. There's enough there that makes me go. And to be honest, I don't want to see another Chiefs and Bucks Super Bowl. That's another reason I didn't pick them. But I do think there are some questions there. And I think one last thing, people underestimate how hard it is to keep going back up the hill as a top team. The Chiefs have done it 2 years in a row. That's rare enough in itself. If they manage to do it 3 years in a row, that is an incredible achievement. But I do think it's going to be harder for them this year, and I do think they can be beaten.
You know, I like the players that they drafted that they're putting on the offensive line. You know, I said this earlier. I liked Creed Humphrey. I like Lucas Niang, who's pretty much a first-year player because he sat out last year. Trey Smith. I'm a fan of his as well, the lad out of Tennessee. But realistically, I know that Niang was drafted 2020 out of TCU. But realistically, they're 3 rookies because Niang didn't play a snap last year. He sat out because of COVID. So, you know, at centre, right guard and right tackle, you've got 3 rookies. And that's why they signed Kyle Long, because they wanted Kyle Long to probably play right guard, maybe play right tackle at a pinch. The left-hand side of the line, I'm not so worried about. You know, Orlando Brown for the Ravens last year, I thought he was a really good acquisition. You know, they've got Joe Thuney, who's been one of the better left guards in the NFL for years. But it's these 3 theoretical rookies who are on the centre, right guard, and right tackle, who I think we might see some time to bed in. You know, that would be the only thing that would worry me if I was a Kansas City fan. I'm looking at their depth chart. You know, I'm really struggling to find anything of note who could play that second wide receiver spot. I imagine at the moment it's going to be Byron Pringle. They've got DeMarcus Robinson. They've got a couple of kids called Marcus Kemp and Darius Fontaine, who I've never heard of. And, of course, Mecole Hardman. I think that might be a problem position for them. I really do think that might be a problem position for them. Because when you get to the playoffs, you're playing the cream of the cream. You know what I mean? And teams will try to take away your best weapon. And there was some games where Sammy Watkins had big games. And I think they'll just miss that. But saying that, I find it hard not to put the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again this year.
I think valid points about the offensive line and the wide receiver room. This isn't aimed at the Kansas City Chiefs. It's just brought to my attention because of Tyrann Mathieu that's out at the moment. You can't forget that COVID ain't gone away. You know, like you're going to be missing players here and there each week. I'm not saying that's going to not get you to the playoffs or anything, but we don't know we still don't know what's going to happen, really. You know, and you could have 2 or 3 games where you're missing some of your best players, and that could affect the results going forward. I just think it's just something to like I say, Tyrann Mathieu is going to be missing. I'm not saying he's going to be one player is going to stop you from winning a game, but certain players can be like that. So I just thought to throw that in there because I just reminded that Tyrann Mathieu was out on Sunday by the looks of it. I'll come back to you then, JP. Obviously, you've got the Ravens. Is there any concerns with Lamar Jackson? You know, everyone obviously we know what everyone says. He's a running quarterback. He's not the best passer. Obviously, they've given him a lot more weapons in the draft and so on this year. So, is that why you've gone from? Do you think that he's perfect for it and he will get him to a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think there's a few things at play. First of all, Jackson himself, I think he's actually being slightly hamstrung by the offensive coordinator. And I am largely saying that because I've seen him hamstring another transcendent athlete at QB when he was the OC of the 49ers. But I do think he's being hamstrung a little bit by the scheme. I think they're going to try and open it up a bit this year. We'll see how good he really is. I personally think he's really good. I think he'll have a very good season. I was sort of going between the Ravens and the Browns, if I'm honest, on the basis that I wasn't going to pick the Chiefs. I was kind of going between the Ravens and the Browns. I just think there's a little bit more experience both in the coaching staff and in the playing staff with the Ravens that I think will matter more when it comes down to it. I think the Browns showed a little bit of their inexperience in the playoffs last year because I think they could have knocked off the Chiefs if they played with a little bit more brains, but unfortunately didn't. You know, I think the Ravens have got some nous on the. I think John Harbaugh, as much as he is a Harbaugh, does actually know how to win games that matter. So I think he's one of the better coaches in the NFL. I don't love Greg Roman, but it has worked so far. As you say, they brought in a lot of weapons this offseason. It should be interesting to see what some of them can do. I mean, we just talked about one. Sammy Watkins has obviously gone over to the Ravens, which is a bit like the rich getting richer for me. They're already a pretty good deep threat team. They've added probably one of the premier deep threats in the league, even at the later stages of his career. I think he's a really good pickup. They've just re-signed Mark Andrews as well, who's a particularly good tight end. So I don't know. I'm pretty happy with where they're going. I think they've got a good number of seasoned players, a good defense as well. They haven't lost a lot on defense. They've lost 1 or 2 players, but they've managed to replace the vast majority. I just think they're a good all-round team. They're well coached, and it's hard to rule those guys out. And I think, I think if I was looking at it with the view of can I pick somebody other than the Chiefs in a lot of ways, and I think that was the obvious choice, really.
I think you make some good points about the Ravens. To be fair, I think Lamar's won an MVP award. Let's not forget how this guy is a quality quarterback, an elite quarterback, as we say. And it's hard to be qualified as an elite quarterback, but you win an MVP award, I think you can justify it a little bit. The thing about the Ravens that I do think about is they've been desperate for wide receivers for years. I think the last 3 years they've drafted 4 wide receivers. And they've brought in Sammy Watkins this offseason as well. So they've definitely been looking for people for Lamar to throw to. And I think that has been their issue the past few years. And I think similarly to how we discussed with the Chiefs, I think my biggest question mark for the Ravens right now would probably be that wide receiver room. The run game, Gus Edwards, it looked like he was going to be a good running back. I think he's still going to, he's had a good couple years, 700 yards or so, which in the Ravens offense, when you split in your rush yardage with Lamar Jackson, you're not going to have necessarily 1,000-yard running back because you're losing so many of your potential yards to Jackson's runs, option runs, and stuff like that. So, yeah, Mark Andrews is a good tight end. Interested to see how Patrick Ricard does as their fullback this year after the COVID year. But yeah, anyway, back to my original point. My biggest question mark with them has been the wide receiver room, and I think that's going to be, can it come together this year? Can Marquise Brown and Sammy Watkins be the receivers that Lamar needs?
Yeah, I'm on the fence with the Ravens. I like Lamar. I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't know if they've got enough. Obviously it's one of them old age questions. When they get to the playoffs and late on, they need to beat someone so I can believe in them. Right now, I just don't believe in them going forward. I think if I had to pick someone other than the original pick that I've got, it'd be the Browns myself. I don't know if it's a year too early, either this year or next year, that they'll be in that Super Bowl. Mark, have you got a dark horse for us in the AFC?
I've actually put money on my dark horse team. You know, I was looking at the betting odds the other day and I thought, who can I put £10 on who I'm going to have some fun with, which can pay us back a bit of money? I saw 25-1 for the Tennessee Titans and I thought, gives a bit of that. The Tennessee Titans are my dark horse team for the AFC Championship and for Super Bowl appearance. And the reason why I chose the Tennessee Titans is because their roster is very, very deep. We've talked about it in the past. Bones has in the past, you know, about Derrick Henry and how if you used to stop Derrick Henry, you pretty much stop the Titans. But, you know, like I like to think that this Titans has got a little bit more. They've got Brown, who's one of the real emerging. I absolutely love A.J. Brown. I think he's just a terrific wide receiver. At this moment in time, I have him a shade above DK Metcalf even. Jordan. I just think he's marvellous. I just think he's big-bodied, strong, can win at all three levels, run great routes, good hands, good in the red zone. I've got a crush on him. But they added Julio Jones into the mix as well. You know what I mean? And Julio's still a very, 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 very good wide receiver. Is he elite still? Who knows? But, you know, last year he suffered from some injuries. But certainly, if you take last year away from it, he's been in the top 1 or 2 wide receivers for the last 10 years. You'd argue Antonio Brown maybe might have given him a run for his money. And now recently, Devontae Adams. But, you know, like that's a really very deep team. Tannehill's a very good quarterback. I think he's criminally underrated. You know, the offensive line's very good. I look at their defense, and their defense looks very good. They signed Janoris Jenkins across from the Saints. They've got Kevin Byard, who's one of the better safeties in the NFL. They've got Jeffrey Simmons, who's really emerging on the defensive line. They brought in Bud Dupree. They've still got Howell Landry, who I like. And I just think that this is a team who are in a win now window. And I thought 25-1 was a great punt for them to win the Super Bowl. So I stuck a tenner on them. And they're my dark horse. They're my dark horse candidate for the AFC Championship. And, and a Super Bowl appearance.
To be fair, I don't mind that comment about AJ and DK Metcalf. I love DK, but I can see why you have a massive crush on AJ Brown. He's just a phenomenal wide receiver. You know, very much similar to similarities to DK Metcalf. You know, obviously both close friends as well. But yeah, I'll take that comment. It's fine. Moving on to MVP. I'm just looking at it now, and 3 of us have got whoever's winning the Super Bowl, the quarterback's winning the MVP. Apart from Bones, who's gone for Matthew Stafford. Move to JP first. He's gone for Tom Brady. I'm going to be honest with you. Someone's going to have to pull me out here. I can't think how many. I don't know how many Super Bowls he's won, but how many MVPs has Tom Brady won? Does anyone know?
I actually don't know if he's won any. That's an interesting question. Obviously, I think he's won a couple of Super Bowl MVPs.
Yeah. Anyway, someone will research that while I talk to you, JP. You've gone for Tom Brady because obviously you've got the Bucs winning it. Is that just straightforward? You just think winner of it, or is there more to it?
Yeah, to be honest, when I look at this award, I wasn't picking who I thought would be MVP caliber. I was picking who I thought the NFL would choose as MVP. And if we think the Bucs are going to be as good as we all seem to think they're going to be, I think it'll win. You got to bear in mind, it may well be Brady's last year as well. The NFL loves a good story. I think if the Bucs are as good as we think, and he's not obviously detrimental to the Bucs, as in he's playing pretty much the level he was for the back end of last season, which I think he will be. I think that's where the award will go. I think there'll be the argument like there was after the Super Bowl that actually it's the defense winning the games, and there's some validity in that. But I'm just looking at it through the prism of what is the NFL going to do? Who are the sports writers going to award it to? And a lot of times, like a lot of awards, the MVP to me is a popularity contest. and I don't think there's many quarterbacks more popular with the media. And if the Bucks are good, he'll end up with it, I think.
So Bones has done his research. Thank you very much. He's on 3 MVPs: 07, 2010, 2017, which I actually didn't have a clue. So yeah, I'm surprised he had 3. Not obviously he's a good player. I just with me being surprised he had 3, I thought he would have had less. So yeah, cheers for that, Bones. So me and Mark have gone, obviously Chiefs winning it. We've gone Patrick Mahomes. I'm in the same thought process as JP. I thought obviously it is a popularity contest at times, unless your offense have done absolutely nothing and your defense have won you the Super Bowl. Seahawks, obviously. I still don't know how he got the Malcolm thing. He got the MVP in that one, but I digress. Yeah, I've gone Patrick Mahomes just because if the Chiefs get the run together and they do what we've said we've done in the past and they get going, a lot of it is going to be from Patrick Mahomes. I did flirt at the idea of like Travis Kelce and stuff, but I just stuck with a boring Patrick Mahomes. Mark, you've gone for the same. Is it the same thought process with you?
Yeah, I just think that Patrick Mahomes, he's not going to take that Super Bowl loss like last year. I think it's going to hurt him. I think he's going to be coming out and showing a point. As much as I worry about, well, I'm not worried, but as much as I think there is a worry about the wide receiver and number 2 spot, let's not forget he's got Travis Kelce on this team. He's got Tyreek Hill on this team. I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to become more of a threat out the backfield in the catching game. Yeah, and I just think he'll sling the ball all over. I think he'll have a big year. And I think he'll just be Patrick Mahomes, I think he'll be hard to pip.
Right, everyone, lads, get your popcorn. Matthew Stafford, Bones, talk to us.
Look, you're gonna have to hear me out on these ones. Thing is, it's like JP already said, the NFL loves a storyline. You take this quarterback who everyone in Detroit says is amazing, who's never really made it to the playoffs. He goes to the Rams and has one of those 5,000-yard seasons that he can have, and he goes to the playoffs and he makes the NFC Championship. Even if he doesn't win, he's a shoo-in for getting MVP as far as I'm concerned. Look at Aaron Rodgers last year and the year Lamar Jackson won the MVP. You don't have to win the Super Bowl to win the MVP award. It's not a requirement. So, no, I think with the storyline involved, with the potential for winning the NFC West and potentially winning the Super Bowl, as far as I'm concerned, I think he's a good shout for it. I think you're all being a bit harsh on the Rams and Matthew Stafford just because of Detroit. So,
Mac's got a dark horse. Go on, Mac.
I was thinking of who can be a legitimate dark horse in this. If I was wanting to think of somebody I could have, like to throw in as I like to do, and I'm thinking, I think Justin Herbert can have a really big year at the Chargers. He is a very dark horse. He's a second-year player, but hey, second-year players have won it before. I was thinking Josh Allen at the Bills, but he's not that much of a dark horse. But Justin Herbert, he's got a better offensive line this year. I think Palmer's a good acquisition in the draft. I think he'll play well this year. Keenan Allen's going to be Keenan Allen. Eckler is an underrated player, criminally underrated. I think he's a very good running back, both catching the ball and running the ball. And yeah, if I was going to have a dark horse at MVP, how about Justin Herbert? He was offensive rookie of the year last year. How about MVP in his second year as a dark horse?
So it's not a bad shout at all. I love Justin Herbert. I think he's destined to be a star for years to come. Moving on to offensive player of the year, and I'm looking at them, and I don't think it's any coincidence that JP and Bones have got quarterbacks who rush and put loads of yards on, as like rushing touchdowns as well as the passing. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, we've touched on it a bit. If he does get that right, then me and Mark have got running backs who can catch out the backfield and just put tons of yards on. I'll come to you, JP, first. You've got Lamar Jackson. Obviously, I'm guessing you're thinking the same of how many yards he puts up and how many touchdowns he puts in himself with rushing, and as well as because he does put some passing ones on as well. Let's not beat around the bush.
Yeah, largely that. I think one of the things is when these awards get handed out, it's usually for players that make the highlight reel plays, the explosive plays. Rarely does it go to somebody that's like been a consistently good runner all season, maybe average 4.5 yards a carry and end up with like 2,000 yards. It might do it's an exceptional season, but generally it goes to the players you see getting in the end zone on Sundays or throwing bombs down the field or things like that. And I've picked the Ravens to win the AFC. So by the same logic, it's kind of like, well, if the Ravens do well, it's going to be off Lamar. It's not going to be anybody else, really. You know, they might have some games where he doesn't play as well. But if they're going to succeed as they did a couple of years ago when he won the MVP, he's going to have a really strong year. So I just thought it made sense. And I think you've all gone for explosive playmakers, really. So I think it just kind of ties in with that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. It's like I say, I've gone for Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, if he stays fit all season, we know what he can do with the ball, you know, in his hands. And, you know, Sam Darnold's going to be finding him as much as possible, you know, like going forward, you know, like just like dumping it off to him. Even this is the thing, like even if like Panthers do find themselves behind in a lot of games, they'll still be looking for Christian McCaffrey out the backfield and things like that. So I think if he stays fit, and I hope he does, because I absolutely love Christian McCaffrey, I think he's got a massive chance to win Offensive Player of the Year if everything falls right. Bones, you've gone for a quarterback yourself, Josh Allen at the Bills, another good pick, I think. What's your thinking in that?
Well, it's not uncommon that we see offensive player awards and MVP awards, for that matter, go to quarterbacks. Like, quarterbacks are a very popular one to win awards because the one of the players that everyone comes to watch, the one of the players that sells tickets for a lot of teams. So, yeah, Josh Allen, you know, we saw a great year from him last year. I think he'll continue to do that, and I think there's every chance he does go on to win the Offensive Player of the Year. I guess there's not much you can say about it that hasn't already been said. He can pass, he can run, he's dynamic, explosive, and exciting, and that's a lot of what the awards are. Is who are your most exciting players? Who are you like? Because there's a lot of players that we've talked about in the past that what they do doesn't show up on the stats, and as a result, they often don't win awards. Like, this is just one of those popularity contests, and I think it's a shoo-in.
Mark, you've gone for, similar to me, gone for a running back like dual threat. Dalvin Cook, are you thinking that, because I don't know, you might be thinking different to me, I don't think the Vikings are going to do much this year. Are you thinking that everything's just going to be put on him and he's going to do so much, he's going to put him in winning positions a lot of the time, and it's going to be a fall all on him?
Yeah, I think he's just going to have an absolutely massive year on the ground. I think he's just going to have an absolutely huge year. And I was torn between him and Derrick Henry for this spot. And I ultimately went with Dalvin Cook because he can catch the ball out of the backfield as well. And I just think they're going to feed him the ball. And I think he's going to have an absolutely huge year. I wasn't able to get Dalvin Cook in any of my fantasy leagues this year. I would have loved to have got him. I think he's a surefire league winner. I just think he's going to set a record this year. Obviously, we've got 17 games, so he's getting that extra game. But I can see records being broken by Dalvin Cook. I think they're going to give him the ball plenty. And I think he's going to have a huge year.
Yeah, I think looking at them all, like I can't argue with any picks. If any of them players have a season that we expect them to, it could be any one of them. There's a few of us we haven't mentioned. Like me personally, I was thinking maybe Devontae Adams, but I settled on Christian McCaffrey, to be honest with you. Moving in on to Defensive Player of the Year, I've got to you first, JP, with Shaq Barrett, because it's not one that crossed my mind whatsoever. So I'll get your explanation there for you. Don't get me wrong, I love him as a player and stuff. It's just I just did not think of him whatsoever.
I think I was looking at other predictions, and obviously, like, you guys have all gone for pass rushers as well. Two of you gone for Myles Garrett, one of you's gone for Chase Young. I think they're all good choices. I'm just again, I hate the fact that I'm doing this, because I'm not necessarily picking the guys I think are the best players. I'm picking what I think might happen and what I think sort of like the national sort of talking points are going to be going into the year. I think Shaq Barrett, quiet year last year, but massive Super Bowl, massive postseason, big contract, now a high-profile team. You know, I think if he has anything approaching some of the seasons, it's weird, isn't it? He kind of broke out after a few years of middling performances. He had the 19.5 sacks in 2019. He had 8 last year, so slightly down, obviously. But I think that Bucks defense is still pretty frightening. I think he's probably the leader of that, but he's also vaulted kind of into the national spotlight now after his performances in the postseason. So I'm just kind of seeing him follow that up. I'm not as confident in this pick as I am in some of the others. I was going for a little bit of a left field choice, but I do think there's something there that if he has the seasons he's had, the last 2 seasons he's had, I think he'll be in the discussion. And again, if they're a good team, it's a puppy. It never goes to a player playing on a team that isn't making the playoffs. And that's what Bones would say about Stafford as well, is that he had some incredible seasons, but because it was kind of out of the limelight, it wasn't noticed. I see them being good. I see him being good, and the combination, I think, should put him in the discussion.
Another one I was quite surprised at from Mark. Again, nothing against the player. He's gone for Chase Young at Washington, aren't you, Mark? And I just looked at the line and I thought it might be shared out more with like sacks and tackles and stuff. But you're going to tell me why I'm wrong, aren't you?
Well, because he's an absolute beast, is what he is. Chase Young is an absolute beast. He's been phenomenal in training camp. He was brilliant last year. He got 7.5 sacks last year as a rookie, which is really good, And I just think he's going to be now unplayable. Also, as well, the media is going to be talking about this Washington front a lot. It's very good. They've got a really good front. And I think Chase Young is going to be the highlight of that. I think we're going to see his name in the press a lot. I think he's good for about 15 sacks this year. I think he might double his sack total. And he's Chase Young is just a phenomenal young talent. And there he went with Myles Garrett, but I knew other people would be putting him. And to be honest with you, I'm not too sure how the media will still be around his suspension last year and flinging a helmet off someone. So I think that might blemish him against Mason Rudolph. But I just think Chase Young's just absolutely phenomenal. It would frighten the life out of me to be lined up opposite him, to be honest with you. If I was an offensive tackle tasked with trying to stop him getting to me quarterback. I did think about Chris Jones at the Kansas City Chiefs. I do think he's in line for a very good year this year. But ultimately, I went with Chase Young just because he's another one I've got one of them crushes on. He's just a phenomenal footballer,
Yeah, to be honest with you, I picked Myles Garrett. I didn't even think about the helmet thing. I totally forgot about that, and I don't know how I can forget about it. But yeah, me and Bones have gone for the same. We've gone for Myles Garrett. I'm just thinking that if Browns put a run in on that defense, the defensive line's looks really strong this year, for the Browns. And if Myles Garrett has another good year, I think he could be the main architect in a lot of things that go right from on that defense. Are you thinking the same, Bones, with Myles Garrett?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm thinking, I get the helmet thing, and to be honest, I'd also forgotten about it, and this goes to prove what we've said a few times, that NFL fans and NFL coaches have very short memories when it comes to a lot of things, and I'd completely forgotten the helmet brawl, but now that you mention it, I can picture it, frame for frame in my mind. But no, I'm thinking about last year. Last year, you look at before COVID, because we need to remember Myles Garrett got taken down with COVID during the year and was on the COVID list for a few weeks. Came back in December after winning Defensive Player of the Month I had it written down. Sorry, in October. Yeah, October of 2020, he was Defensive Player of the Month. He'd recorded, 6 sacks that month alone. He got 12 sacks on the season, even after battling COVID. And we've had a lot of players come back from COVID and say it really did affect the rest of the season for them. They weren't 100%, and I think if that's him not at 100% the rest of the year after that, then if he's fully healthy all year this year and gets to play the full season out and doesn't get suspended for a brawl and doesn't get COVID, I think his stats are going to put him in the race no matter what, regardless of the helmet incident.
Yeah, I must admit, I hope he does get it. I don't know. I hate saying it, and a lot of you lot will turn your face up here. I've got a soft spot the Browns, and I really like Myles Garrett. So I'm hoping that they do well, and I'm hoping that he has a good year. So now we're moving on to the offensive, to the rookies, and obviously the offensive rookies. We've got a few quarterbacks in here, and we've got a I must admit, another shot from JP. He's going against the grain tonight, isn't it, with some of his that I was not surprised with. We'll come to you first with yours, Mark. Mac Jones. Obviously, he's got the starting job over there. I know that you've flickered back and forth a couple of times. We've talked about it in the chat before with the guy that I've got. You've settled on Mac Jones now. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I mean, it was either Mac Jones or Zach Wilson that I was going to choose. Because they're starting, and it's going to be won by a quarterback. It's so hard now for a position outside a quarterback to win it. I mean, Jefferson last year had a phenomenal rookie year, you know what I mean? And it still went to Herbert. When you could have argued the case for Jefferson. But in a couple of years before that, Josh Jacobs was picked by Kyler Murray, even though Josh Jacobs had a phenomenal year. It's really a quarterback's award. And I was thinking, who's going to start? So I was thinking Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, and then obviously Mac Jones. And the truth of the matter is, I think Mac Jones is in a better position to win now. I don't know if he'll have the statistical season that the other two will. I think he might throw less interceptions and he'll probably be safer with the ball. But I do think that this Patriots team is going to be very good. I do think they're going to get a wild card this year. I wouldn't rule them out of the AFC East. He's already beaten out Cam Newton. I think Mac Jones is a really good bet for Offensive Rookie of the Year, to the point where I think I would be surprised if he didn't win it.
Yeah, I've gone for the guy that you were thinking about as well. I've gone for Zach Wilson, and I think it's just you're thinking as well. He's going to be a starter at Jets, and although the defense is a bit, we've talked about it on past episodes where we're not sure about the defense for the Jets. I don't mind the offense, and I think it's going to be a lot of pressure on Zach Wilson, and if he deals with it, which I think he can. He's got some good targets there, like Corey Davis came off a good year, but I know he's not the best wide receiver, but he came off a good year at Tennessee. He's not a bad wide receiver. Elijah Moore, I absolutely love. Even Keelan Cole coming off from the Jags, they've got some good options there, and I think there's going to be a lot of games where they're going to rely on him to pass the ball a lot because they're behind, and he's going to win potential games which they could have lost, and he's going to put a lot of yards on. So that's why I've gone with Zach Wilson. We'll go with the last quarterback, and that's you, Bones. You've gone with Justin Fields. Explain it yourself.
So, I mean, it pains me to say this because it's a Bears player, but no, I don't think I know he's not listed as the starter, but I don't think Dalton's going to be the starter in Chicago for very long. I think Fields takes over sooner or later, and I think once Fields does take over, as we saw in the preseason, he's pretty dynamic and exciting to watch. And what wins Offensive Rookie of the Year? Well, like you already said, Justin Jefferson, by every right, deserved the Offensive Rookie Player of the Year Offensive Rookie of the Year award last year, and didn't get it. So I think he's going to have better, more interesting statistics than Mac Jones, and I think he has a better team around him than Zach Wilson. So I think realistically, once he does take over from Dalton, I'm putting my eggs in the basket that he does, but I think he will. I think he's a shoo-in for it. I definitely think he's up there as one of the contenders.
It's another question I'm gonna ask, and I don't know if anyone will know it because it's quite off the chart, like we're knowing it. But if we don't know it, we will find out and we'll put it on the Twitter. Has anyone ever won Rookie Offensive Player of the Year by coming in later on, like in week 4 or 5? Not actually starting the season. And I can't think of anything off my head right now. It's quite a tough question, but if we do find out, we'll tweet it and we'll let you know, because I think it's a good question if anyone has. Another good question is JP has gone for Jalen Waddle, and why?
Keep it simple, I guess. Well, I mean, a couple of things. This is probably a pick I made without thinking what's the likelihood of him winning it. I'd pick somebody that I thought would have a great season. I love Jalen Waddle. I think he was the best receiver in the draft. I think I've even said that on the draft pods. He's looked pretty good so far. Question mark with the quarterback, obviously, but he's there to try and help him out. So I think he's going to be a heavy target for Tua. I don't know. I just really like the guy. I think he's a playmaker. I think he's going to have those explosive plays that we talked about when we talked about Offensive Player of the Year. I think he's going to show up on highlights. I think he's going to have a solid season. I can't say that. I think when you look at the others, you guys have chosen quarterbacks. I totally get that. But then I look at it and I go, okay, I think Mac Jones is a good pick because I think if the Patriots are any good, he's quite likely to be in there. Fields isn't starting at the moment, but I can see why he's a potential, and obviously Zach Wilson. But Zach Wilson's on a bad team. I think, and I'm not saying the Dolphins are a great team because they're not, but I think a team that does, say, average to above average with an explosive player is going to put that player into consideration. I think they'll find creative ways to use him. I think they'll get the ball in his hands a lot. I'm not sure he'll top Jefferson's season last year, but I personally don't think he'll be far away from it. So when I put all that together, I was kind of like, yeah, this is the guy I'm going to go for because it'll make for some interesting discussion. So, but no, I really like the player. That's a large part of the reason why I've picked him here. I think he's on a solid enough team that he'll get plenty of chances to impress, and I think he'll do that.
Just quickly before we move on, by nod or shake of the head, has Jamar Chase got a chance? I'll just throw that out there. So, defensive rookie of the year. There's two players. Two of us have got one. Two of us have got the other. Me and Mark have got Micah Parsons. I'm going to let Mark do all the talking on Micah Parsons because I know how much he loves him. Go for it, Mark.
Yeah, just draft athletes if you're drafting defensive players. I've said it lots of times before. Micah Parsons is an athlete. I think he's going to light up the stat sheet. We're going to see over 100 tackles for him in his rookie year. We're going to see him get some sacks because he's very good at rushing the passer. I think we've already seen in preseason just how much of a ball magnet he is. You know, like he had fumbles, forced fumbles, recovered. He was all over the field, and he really is a dynamic talent. He was hard not to love coming into the draft process. He was my favorite defensive player in the draft process. Incidentally, the other two have went for my second favorite defensive player in the draft process. Patrick Surtain. I'm just unsure, will he start? Because that's a very crowded, secondary for the Denver Broncos. But I just think that Micah Parsons is going to light up this stat sheet. He's going to be all over the field. He's going to be causing turnovers. He's going to be the emotional heartbeat of that Dallas defense. And whilst I think it's a pretty poor unit, I think he'll have a really big statistical season. I can see him getting 4 or 5 sacks. I could maybe see him causing a couple of fumbles. And I can see him topping out at 100 tackles this year as well. So, yeah, that's why I went with Micah Parsons. Why have you gone with him, Jordan? You must say the same as what I do. I know you watched the college game. And the guy's just an athlete. He's just an absolute brute of an athlete who plays in the middle of your defense.
Yeah, I'm same as you. That's why I thought I'd let you. I know how well you describe him and stuff, and so I'd let you do it all. But I'm in agreement. I just think he's an absolute beast. I think even though he's a rookie, he's just going to be relied on so much in that Dallas defense this year. And I think he's going to just be. You can see if you've watched Hard Knocks, if you haven't seen him in college, if you watch Hard Knocks, you can see how much he just wants to play. He just wants to be out there, and he just wants to be making plays, and he'll be just running all over. To make these plays, and that's what they're going to rely on. And I think I know you mentioned the Cowboys earlier, going far. Obviously, the offense is superior to a lot of people's. But I think if Micah Parsons has a good year, from a really good year, I think it could make that defense a lot better. And that's a weird thing to say about a rookie, coming out. But that's how good he is. He's, to me, even though he is a rookie, I think he's just ready for the NFL side already. I can't wait to watch him. Especially tonight as well. Do you want to add something about Micah Parsons, Mark? Yeah,
it's just as well he doesn't want to come off the field because he's not going to come off the field. He's going to play 3 downs all the time. You need never to take this kid off the field. You'll always find a role for him, even on 3rd down if you're going to put him in as a pass rusher, because he's that good at pass rushing. I was reading some draft analysts talk. On the build-up to the draft. You know what I'm like? I make my own board and I make my own scouting tape and I have my own notebook on these players. But I still like to listen to the experts on it. And they were saying if Micah Parsons came out as an edge, he would have been edge number 1 as pass rushing's that good. So we know he's not going to come off the field. He's going to be on the field continually. And I think they're going to get really creative with him. And yeah, I think it's going to be hard to bet against them. Although I do love the guy that the other two lads have chosen as well.
Yeah, I'm just echoing what you're saying. I just couldn't. I would try to find someone else other than Micah Parsons, sorry, and Patrick Surtain were the only other person that came close. The rest of them, and good players in their own right. I just couldn't see any other way that if Micah Parsons won't win it, it's the guy that these two have picked. And I'll come to you for first, Bones, with Patrick Surtain.
I think the thing with Patrick Surtain, I get why Micah Parsons is down as having the defensive rookie of the year performance for you guys. I reckon it's between these two. If not, Parsons is pretty. I do think he's a good pick, but we've talked about it before. The Denver secondary is very good, so he's going to a team like you said that's already got a good secondary. But I think we'll see him quite a lot this year. I think their third cornerback is Bryce Callahan, and I think Patrick Surtain's good enough to take a few reps off him at least. And this is where it gets tricky because, like you say, Parsons is going to be on the field every down, whereas Surtain, I don't think he is going to be on the field every down. I think he's going to be rotational pieces first year because corner's hard. But I think when he's on the field, I think he's going to make enough of a splash that he'll be in that conversation anyway. Because, like you say, that Denver secondary is pretty good. It's similar to the Dallas one, I guess, in a way where they're built to get the ball off people, aren't they? And that's always exciting to watch when defensive get the ball back. So. Yeah, I think either's a really good pick. Like you've both said, it's just a tough one to call.
Yeah, I mean, I like Vic Fangio as a defensive guy. Obviously, the head coach, not the coordinator. But I like the way he puts his defenses out. I think they generate turnovers. I think Surtain's going to be on the field enough that he's going to get quite a lot of those. I think they'll find creative ways to use him as well. I think there's going to be. It's going to be fun to watch him. I think that might just be enough. I love Micah Parsons as a pick as well. The only concern I have there is that Dallas defensive unit is atrocious. Obviously, that will make him stand out. But, I mean, I don't know how much credit you get as a rookie if you're on, like, the 27th ranked defense in the league or something like that. So that's my only question with that. Denver's defensive unit, I think, will be pretty good. I don't think Von Miller's going to be winning Defensive Player of the Year, but I do think they've got a good defensive unit. So... I like Surtain. Think he's a good player. I'm excited to watch him this year.
We're all going to look stupid, aren't we, if Von Miller wins it? Obviously he's not, but the amount of abuse that Tom's getting. Moving on to comeback player of the year. Again, me and Mark have gone for the same. We've gone for Cowboy, and my thinking is, like we've mentioned a few times already, he's got all the weapons there. We saw what if you've seen the images of his injury last year, it were absolutely horrendous, weren't they? Like the guy's so likable as well. You can't, even if you hate the Cowboys, he's such a likable person, Dak Prescott, in my personal opinion. So, are you thinking similar, Mark? Is there anything different you're thinking?
I think that this is a bit of an emotional award. Like after Smith won it last year, I don't necessarily disclose the player who's maybe had the statistical best, but maybe one who's coming back from adversity. And we all saw on primetime TV that absolutely gruesome injury that Dak Prescott had last year. And I think that this is a bit of an emotional award. I think if Dak just comes back and leads the Cowboys to the playoffs, I think, it's one of those, isn't it? Because it was such an awful looking injury. It looked like his leg was hanging off. You know what I mean? And like I said, Alex Smith won this award last year, and it's become a bit of an emotional award. So that's why I went with Dak Prescott. I don't actually, you might have a really big statistical season and win it outright. I just think that, it's become very emotional, and I think he is so popular. He is the quarterback of America's team, regardless of what we all think of the Dallas Cowboys. And I just think, if he's on the field and if he plays remotely well, he's going to win that award.
Yeah, saw him with his injury last year when he went down, try to smash it and punch it back in so he could get back on field and play when it were hanging off. That's the commitment levels that Dak Prescott goes to. Bones, you've gone for McCaffrey. I'm surprised you haven't put Matthew Stafford in here, but you've gone for McCaffrey. So,
look, I'm sticking with my guns. I don't care about all this abuse you're going to give me for my Rams and Stafford picks, but I think with Christian McCaffrey, I think it is a little bit statistics. I think you've already said earlier in the podcast with Sam Darnold this year, McCaffrey is going to get a lot of reps coming back. I think the last time we saw him play, he had over 2,000 combined yards. 1,300 yards rushing, 1,000 yards plus receiving. Like, he's a dynamic player, and you've made a really good case for Dak Prescott. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Dak either, but I think Christian went down early last year. He'll be coming back and he'll be having a big year. I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah. It's like you said, there's a few people behind, but I think Dak. I don't know if someone knows the odds, but I know Dak Prescott's favourite, and I think he's quite short as well, because obviously for the things that we've said.
Yeah, it's like plus 200 for Dak, and then like the next closest one is like plus 700 or something. So it's pretty favourable for Dak right now, but. Yeah, I wanted to throw something a bit different out there as well, because I knew you guys had both gone Dak.
Yeah, speaking of a bit different, JP.
See, I don't know. I was getting some stick for this pick, and all right, yeah, it's one of my team's guys. I get that, but this is a guy coming off a pretty serious fucking injury. Tore his ACL last year. He had 9 sacks in his rookie year. He tore his ACL in game 2. I don't know. You've all said tonight you think the 49ers are going to be a good team. If the 49ers are going to be a good team this year, it's going to be driven by somebody like Nick Bosa, even though, as Mark puts in the chat, he does have some slightly questionable political views. If the 49ers do well, it will be because Nick Bosa is back at full strength. If Nick Bosa is back at full strength, he's going to have at least 10 sacks, I think. So, to me, he's in the conversation. I would say Dak's the prohibitive favourite, because he's on America's team, God's team, or whatever the fuck else they call themselves. If he has even a half decent year, I can see him winning the award. But that said, if we reach that 2019 level again, I'm not necessarily saying go to the Super Bowl, but a deep playoff run, Bosa will be a massive part of that. And I think at that point, you have to look at it objectively and go, this guy has made a huge difference to his team coming off a serious injury. And I think that's enough to win this award.
Obviously, joking aside, like you said, Max mentioned something in the chat, but it is a valid point. When you're giving out awards, I know NFL are a bit controversial, like when it comes to the rule setting. They won't go one way and then the other. But would they really want to give it to Nick Bosa? That's the question. Moving on to Coach of the Year. I'll go back to JP, because me and you have got the same guy. We've got Ron Rivera, and I just think speaking of stories, like when it comes to Dak Prescott, they like the story in America. Riverboat Ron, he's come back from cancer, and he did well last year. To be honest with you, they were in the mix last year for it, and I think if he can get them to winning the division again and getting them to the playoffs again, I think he'll be in there again. Obviously, there's a few others. I'm not saying he's a cert. But if everything goes right for Washington this year, and even if they win a wild card game or something like that, there's a good chance he'll win it again. Do you agree? Obviously, you agree, JP.
Yeah, I mean, look, they won a bin fire of a division last year. Everyone knows that, but I think they're going to be a quality team this year. I don't think they're going to win that division by default. I think they're going to win it easily, and 1 or 2 playoff wins, I think you're looking at a bona fide Coach of the Year candidate. Rivera's took a team to the Super Bowl. I don't know if he could do that with Washington, but he'll get him close to it, I think. And I think he's one of the better coaches in the NFL, to be quite honest with you. I'm amazed that he doesn't come up in those conversations. He's always developed solid teams. I think he's going to do it again. I can't really think of another massive candidate. Usually Coach of the Year tends to go to a guy who's turned the team around a bit, which I think is where Bones' pick has come from, but we'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, Rivera, I think solid coach, solid team. I think they'll go pretty deep. I think they might win 1 or 2 playoff games. I think that might be enough.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same, obviously. Mark's pick, Bill Belichick. I think I know why he's picked him. I'm sure he's going to tell us now.
I think they're just going to have a good year. They did very poorly last year by his standards. And I think people, if it's possible to sleep on the New England Patriots, I think people are sleeping a bit on the New England Patriots. I do think that they're a serious threat for the AFC East. I have them nailed on to get a wild card place at least. Nobody wants to go to New England in winter. And I just think it's been a while since he's won it. I think he's got Mac Jones now. He's got his quarterback, and I just think they're going to have a really, really good year. And I think that from the disaster that was last year, like without Brady, I think this will be the Bill Belichick is back. He's led the New England Patriots to the playoffs again. This is the rebirth of the Patriots, if there is such thing, because they missed the playoffs once in the last 15 years or something like that. And normally this is an award which is reserved for one of them coaches who comes in and starts turning a franchise around. But I think that this could be the start of New England turning back to glory. And I just think, I think Bill Belichick's long due an award. I think he's going to get it. So that's my bet.
Yeah, I can see him getting into the playoffs and getting back. They've made some good moves this off season. You said at the start there, sleeping on no one sleeps on New England. Someone who isn't sleeping is Dan Campbell with the amount of coffee he drinks. So Bones has picked Dan Campbell for Coach of the Year. I'm sure you're going to explain.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some bias in this one. I won't deny, but I think because, like JP said, it's for people who are turning the team around. We're not getting turned around this year. We're going 3-14. Like, Lions fans should just accept that now. Like, I don't care what anyone else says. Show me your predictions at who we win against, because it's not happening. But the thing about Dan Campbell that I do think is going to win hearts is because it's been quite polarizing. You get some pundits who are like, "Oh, this guy needs to take life more seriously," and then you get people like normal folk like us who are like, "This guy's fantastic. I want more coaches like this guy." And I think that's enough to maybe get him in the conversation. His press conferences are going to be fantastic. His sound bites are going to be amazing. And I think there's going to be multiple points in the year where we all go, "I wish Dan Campbell was the head coach of my team." And I'm going to be sat here like, well, he is the head coach of my team.
Mark's shaking his head, so I'm just going to go to him quickly before we move on. Go on, man.
I've got an emotional head coach in John Gruden, who's like the head coach of my franchise. I think Dan Campbell's got about as much chance of winning this as John Gruden has. If I was going to pick a dark horse candidate for this, it might have been Salah. I think that Jets team, I think they will look a little bit better. I think that offense is going to be better. If I was picking a dark horse, because the Jets might get 6 or 7 wins this year, you know what I mean? I think I would have went Robert Salah over Dan Campbell. Not that Dan Campbell's a bad coach, we don't know yet. He's new in the post, but yeah, I don't think if it was won on emotional coaches, John Gruden would have half a dozen of these by now, because that guy can't keep his mouth shut,
I think the one thing I'll say about Dan Campbell, and I think I said it when we discussed the Lions on the division wrap-up, I don't know what the hell's going to happen, but it's either going to be really good or really bad, and I have no idea which it's going to be. If it's really good, maybe it won't be good this year, as Bones says, but if he can eke some wins out of that team and it's signs of progress, he's probably a better coach than we think. He might not win Coach of the Year. On the other hand, he could just be Matt Patricia with more coffee, in which case it'll be another 3-4 years of pain. I really don't know what to think. And we're playing you guys on Sunday. I have no idea what to expect. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do as a coach. Coach of the Year is a bit wild, though.
Go on. Who wants to be the lucky person to break the Ravens news?
Well, I saw it on Twitter as well. Gus Edwards and Marcus Peters, back-to-back plays, have apparently suffered serious knee injuries. That's the quickest I've ever had a prediction go wrong before in my entire life. It's a good job I'm not a gambler, isn't it? I don't know what to say about that. That's 2 starters down straight off. That's horrible. That's the worst news you could possibly get. 3 days before the start of the season. Yeah, Jesus, what a horrible moment for them and for my predictions. So, yeah. On the other hand, the offense is now going to have to carry the Ravens. So maybe that offensive player of the year for Lamar is looking a little bit better.
I think you play it first.
Sorry, those injuries are going to be felt by the Ravens. Marcus Peters, is a gambler on the back end of that defense. That's going to be a loss for them. Although they have got Humphrey, I've got Smith as well. They're quite deep. But they let Sean Wade go, didn't it, in New England? And I'm wondering now, they're thinking, oh, I wish we'd kept him. And he's shown in pre-camp, he had too many corners for the roster. Gus Edwards is a miss. with J.K. Dobbins. They're both ACL injuries. They're out for the year. That's harsh, especially when they've lost Dobbins already. Le'Veon Bell time. Is it Le'Veon Bell time? Maybe.
Well, while I discuss what we're going to go on next, Bones is going to get the next slide up out of why I speak, because we're going to time this perfectly. So on the next one, we've all gone for a team that we think are going to make the playoffs that didn't last year, and a team that were in the playoffs that aren't going to make it this year. So JP and Mark are I absolutely despise them, but I'll go with JP first. Obviously, you've both got the same teams making it, which I totally get. I get that one. So I'll let you go first, JP, with your 49ers.
Well, I mean, geez, it looks personal, and I assure you that it's not. I was basically taking it as a one-in, one-out situation in that, wild card in the NFC, possibly division winner. We all think the Rams are going to be good too, but I don't know. I mean, you've talked quite openly that you think the Seahawks are kind of just running in place a little bit. I don't know what sort of team the 49ers are going to be, but I think we're closer to a playoff team than a bad team. So I was happy enough with that choice. Like I say, it's just kind of a one-in, one-out scenario for me. I don't know what Mark thinks.
I'm the same as you, John. I think it's difficult for three teams from the same conference to go from the same division to go into the playoffs. I know also last year with the Steelers and stuff like that. But yeah, I just think San Fran are going to be better. I think Seahawks are going to be worse. I can see San Fran and the Rams going through. And I don't think the Seahawks will have the record. I think they'll just miss off on the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I must admit, when I first saw you put these in chat, I got worked up and I was ready to come in. And then, when I actually thought about it, I just went back to normal and thinking, you know what, you're probably right, to be honest with you. But the only good thing I would say about the Seahawks is it's on the NFC side, and there's about 2 or 3 that could get that 7th spot, and they are in there with a few of them. If they get that offense right, and it wins them games when they like I said, my big concern for the Seahawks is the cornerback situation, which is massive. But if they are in with a chance to get that 7th spot, but I could easily see them squeezed out at the same time as well. Bones, you've gone for a team that I actually were going to go for, but I changed it. You've gone for the Patriots, and you've gone for the Saints coming out, which is a surprise.
So mine are from completely different sides. So there's other teams that I expect to move around in all of this, but there's two. Both these teams have been hit on, and the points I'm going to come back to already tonight, I guess. The Saints are now probably going to be quarterbacked by Jameis Winston, who I know I get the point of Sean Payton can do well with a lot of people, but I think it's not just Jameis Winston either. I think it's losing Drew Brees. I think that is going to be different for them. I think that is going to take a little bit of adapting to. I think Michael Thomas going down is going to be big for them this year as well. They've not got one of their best wide receivers available anymore for however long it lasts. We don't know, I guess. I just don't. I see the Saints maybe just falling out this year. I don't know. Things too much has shifted for me to say that I think they're a firm playoff contender anymore. Whereas I would have said they're a firm playoff contender when Breeze was here last year. The Patriots, like Mark said, I expect them to at least get to a wild card spot this year. I do think that. Again, to bring up the exact same phrasing, if there is a way to sleep on the New England Patriots, I think the people are a little bit, and I think we'll see them back in the playoffs this year. I think they're almost a shoo-in for it.
Yeah, like I said, I will think about New England Patriots, and I'm going to go double whammy. I'm throwing it out there now. Obviously, I've got the Chargers coming in. I'd say the Chargers and Patriots come in, and the Dolphins and Steelers drop out. That's where I won. I've gone for the Dolphins and Chargers, but I could have easily gone there. And I looked at the Chargers' schedule, and it's apart from obviously having the Chiefs in there. I know there's Mark's Raiders in there, which I'm sure there'll be 2 wins anyway, but Mark might disagree. They've got the Chiefs in there, the Broncos. But if you look outside the conference, they've got some really favourable games. The Chargers, you can see. I think they've got the Jags, they've got the Texans. They might have the Jets. I can't remember. They've got some ones that are like Vikings. They've got some easy winnable games really for the Chargers at home. So, and I just think the Dolphins are just they just missed out last year, and I think they'll struggle against Patriots are going to get better. So they could easily lose 4 division games there from the Patriots and the Bills. So that's my thing. I think the Dolphins and Steelers will drop out. So I'll go double whammy there. So to finish off, I'm going to throw some questions that these guys didn't know were coming. I'm hoping JP didn't peek like he promised me. So I'll go to Mark first, and then I'll work my way around. Player with the most receiving yards, Mark. Who would you go for?
Oh, Calvin Ridley. I think that the Atlanta Falcons are going to be behind a lot. That defense cannot be trusted to keep them in games. Matt Ryan's going to be slinging the ball a lot. Julio Jones is gone. I know they brought Kyle Pitts in, but he's a rookie. I think Calvin Ridley's going to have a massive year. So most receiving yards, I'm going to go with him. Calvin Ridley.
Bones.
Really on the spot. I think AJ Brown. I think Titans and stuff that Mark was saying earlier is a good shout. AJ Brown.
JP.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to pick the same person as somebody else, but I've got Calvin Ridley in my head as well for that one. Just because outside of Kyle Pitts, what the hell else is there in Atlanta? Like, it's a classic one of those situations where they're going to have to throw the ball to it. They got nobody else. So, yeah, Calvin Ridley for me.
Yeah, I must admit, I'll Calvin Ridley as well, but I'm not taking part in this because I hate him, so obviously I'm not going to cup. But Devontae Adams will be up there as well, obviously. So I'll come straight back to you, JP. Rushing yards.
It's got to be Derrick Henry, hasn't it? Surely. I mean, it's still a run first team. He's still the player he was. I think it's got to be him, hasn't it?
Agree, Bones?
Yeah, I can't see anyone unless he goes down, and maybe Dalvin Cook, like Mark said, he's going to have a big year on the ground this year. He's going to be running a lot as the next best thing.
Mark's going to give us someone different, aren't you, Mark?
I'm going to say Dalvin Cook. I think Dalvin Cook's going to have absolute monster year. So I'm going to say Dalvin Cook.
And Bones, finally, quarterback with the most passing yards.
Matthew Stafford, baby.
Mark.
Quarterback with the most passing yards. If he plays 17 games, I'm going to go Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott's going to fling the ball around a lot. If Dak Prescott doesn't play 17 games, I think Patrick Mahomes.
JP?
It's Mahomes. I'd say Mahomes is the obvious choice, really. Yeah, we'll go with him.
I'll throw this last one in there but it's an hard one because obviously you probably haven't got the schedules, but obviously just have a go anyway because it's here. I might as well not leave it off. Bones, last team to stay unbeaten.
Oh, go on. Just because they went the 0-16 the most recently, the Browns. Let's say the Browns.
Mark?
Oh, God, you have put us on the spot because I haven't looked at the schedules. I'm going to go with last team to be unbeaten. I'm going to go with the Patriots. I think the Patriots are going to start off hot. I think they're going to be hard to figure out. I'm going to go the Patriots. Last team to be unbeaten.
Go on, JP.
I almost went outlandish and said the 49ers, but I can't bring myself to do it. Let's say the Chiefs. I think they're probably one of the strongest teams this year.
Right. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. And before we go, Mark is the Mystic Geordie we knew him as last season. He came up with some fantastic bets. Come on, give us this week one banker.
Yeah, if you followed us last year, you would have been in the money because I was about 400 quid up on the year. I had Gronk for 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. I had lots of winners last year, so you should have been following my punts last year. So I've been looking for some nice little punts this year. I'm staying away from handicap lines on the first week of the NFL. I think it's really hard to bet on handicap lines. So I've just gone for money lines. And I've got a double that will double your money. If you back the Rams to beat Chicago at home and you back New England Patriots to beat Miami Dolphins at home, if you put £10 on, you'll get £20 or £21 back, just over double your money. If you want to be a little bit flirty and you want to make that a quartet, how about we throw in the Tennessee Titans and the Minnesota Vikings into the mix. Minnesota Vikings are playing the Bengals. Tennessee Titans are playing the Arizona Cardinals, who have got absolutely nothing in the secondary, apart from Buda Baker. So, yeah, a double. If you want a nice little double, go for New England, and the Rams. If you want to have a little flirty quartet, go with Minnesota Vikings, Tennessee Titans, and of course New England and the Rams to win. All on the money line, no handicaps included. That's my little they're my little flutters.
Cheers, Mark, or Mystic Geordie, as we should call you. We'll find out next week how it goes, and we'll keep coming to each week with a weekly bet. And remember, everyone, gamble responsibly if you are going to do it. So thank you, guys. Thank you. It's been a great episode. I'm excited for tonight, and obviously, thank you for listening. If you are staying up, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's a good game, or if you are going to get some sleep and get up, or watch it tomorrow. Yeah, season's here, innit? Let's go. We're going to enjoy it, and we'll see